Good evening, I hope everyone's well today, thank you for watching. Last year, after the Southport atrocities and the subsequent protests, our Prime Minister went on national television and branded every single individual that attended those protests far-right thugs. We've had information come out over the past 48 hours from the police inspectorate that say excuse me, there was no link to far-right groups or any organised attack by far-right groups. I said as much last year. In fact, I said there were many different groups at the Southport protests. There were rioters, there were people that wanted to start a ruckus and loot and pillage and get into violent altercations with the police. I did say that at the time. There were also general protesters that were horrified and outraged, and rightly so, at the taking of the life of those little children. I still walk past my local community centre and there's little dance classes in there with children and whatnot. And it makes you think, will it happen again? And it's unacceptable. And this is because of the state of Britain. So there was protesters there, and that was the vast majority. And they were local people. They weren't people from all over the country. People can't really afford to do that. They've done it locally. So most of the Southport protests were local. Most of the ones in other cities were local. And most of the ones in Northern Ireland were local to the area. I said as much last year as well. Passers-by recording it on the phones, there would have been looters, and there would have been the general public there as well. So there were lots of different groups of people at the riots and the protests. Now this report that's been released actually defines the people that were there as protesters, because the vast majority of them were protesters, not rioters. Not according to the Prime Minister though, remember, we're all far-right bigots, racists and thugs, according to Keir. Never forget that. There was a recent incident over the weekend, a foiled or a failed terrorist plot down in Swindon, down south. And they released the information about those individuals straight away. There was no vacuum for misinformation. It was linked to terrorists, and they released that information straight away. The Prime Minister didn't do it with this for some unknown reason. So always remember, they knew, they withheld information, they are complicit in the fact that the Rita Kapana family was even in the country to begin with, because they were asylum seekers from a failed state, Rwanda, and you've got to ask the questions that I've asked since then, which is, why is the asylum system for countries incompatible with ours? Why has that not been reviewed? So remember, Keir Starmer knew. He knew all about it. They had the information. They sat on it. And they were very, very happy to classify every single individual out on the streets after this atrocity as having no legitimacy at all. Every single individual that was out after the Southport atrocities, no legitimacy according to the Prime Minister and according to your ruling governments. Remember that next time you vote. They think it's acceptable and a price worth paying for the sake of diversity that children in the United Kingdom are not safe. This is my opinion. Your mileage, as always, may vary. But yeah, always remember that the government is not on your side. Ask pertinent questions, be inquisitive, and then come to your own conclusions. The Prime Minister is on borrowed time, in my opinion, and everybody in the country dislikes him, and it's understandable why. He doesn't want to differentiate if it goes against the agenda. On the wake of the Southport atrocities, on the weight of the evidence that's been released, Keir Starmer and his government had a narrative that they wanted to peddle. They had a story they wanted to tell, which is white man evil, white man racist, white man bigoted, and no legitimate concerns regarding how many people come into the country, what are the terms of their entry, and what they're expected to do when they're here, is deemed acceptable to the Prime Minister. If you raise any questions regarding compatibility of cultures, whether they should even be granted asylum in the United Kingdom, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a xenophobe. That is the message that the Labour government has, and that is what the Prime Minister thinks of any people in the United Kingdom with that opinion. If you think I'm right, comment below, let me know. If you think that Prime Minister Starmer once again has failed, let me know. This report that has been released by the police inspectorate, it was completed in January. Now for some reason it was only released this week. Again, it's all about managed information, giving it out in little chunks here, little chunks there. All of this information should be released and nobody should be sitting on it. It should be released as soon as the reports are completed. It's disgusting. They do it like this so they have a hope and a dream that it's going to fly under the radar, that people won't pay attention, that people will not notice. Always be critical of any position of authority, anybody in power who says that you need to march to the beat of their drum. Before you start dancing to their tune, ask why, be inquisitive, make sure you have all of the information, all of the facts, then come to your own conclusions. I said last year that there was more to this. I still think there's more to this even now. I still think the government is withholding more information. I've got every right to be sceptical. Keir Starmer, prove me wrong. I appreciate your time. Thank you for watching. Consider like and subscribing to the channel. It does help me out and it is very much appreciated, alright? Thank you for your time.